I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want to transport you to a very specific time and place.
Okay.
It is January 30th, 1948. We are in New Delhi, standing in the garden of a large mansion called Birla House. The sun has already set, so the air is cooling down rapidly. It's a crisp winter evening in North India, and walking across the grass, making his way toward a prayer meeting, is an old man.
And when you say old, we need to be specific about what that looked like on this particular night. He is 78 years old, but he looks much older.
Right.
He is incredibly frail. He has just come out of a grueling fast. He is so weak that he literally cannot walk on his own.
No.
He is leaning his entire body weight on the shoulders of two young women, his grandnieces, Abha and Manu.
Right, his walking sticks, as he used to call them. So picture this scene. It's quiet, respectful. There's a crowd waiting for him, as there always was.
Always.
People are straining to get a glimpse of the Mahatma, the great soul. And then, out of this sea of faces, a single man steps forward.
Nathuram Godse. He's wearing a khaki bush jacket. He looks, calm.
That's the unsettling part.
He doesn't look like a fanatic or a madman. He looks like someone who belongs there.
And this is the moment that chills me every time I read about it. Godse doesn't scream, he doesn't run, he approaches Gandhi and he bows.
He performs a traditional namaste.
He is showing supreme respect to the man he is about to kill.
It is a profound juxtaposition, isn't it? You have this ancient gesture of reverence, seeking a blessing, immediately followed by the ultimate act of violation.
Immediately.
Godse pushes the young girls aside, the human crutches, and pulls out a Beretta automatic pistol.
3 shots, point blank range, bam, bam.
Right into the chest and abdomen.
Just like that.
And the man collapses instantly. His hands are still folded in that greeting. His last words, reportedly, are, "Hey, oh God."
And the light of India is extinguished. But here is the paradox we need to sit with today. This wasn't just a political assassination. This was a cosmic irony.
It absolutely was.
It really is, because think about it. You have a man who spent his entire life championing nonviolence. Himsa.
His core principle.
A man who defeated the British Empire, the most powerful military force on the planet, without firing a single shot. And how does he die?
He dies violently, at the hands of his own people.
From a gun.
That is the central tragedy. But I think if we stop there, if we just look at the statue of the saint and the loincloth, we miss the point.
Yeah.
We miss the man.
We do.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to move beyond the marble statue. We are going to explore the entire life of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi.
And let me tell you, the entire life is a lot messier than the version I got in my high school history books.
Oh, much messier.
We are going to talk about a guy who was terrified of ghosts, a guy who tried to be a dandy British gentleman with a violin.
We'll discuss the controversial experiments with celibacy that, frankly, still baffle historians today.
And we're going to tackle the really hard stuff. The accusations of racism during his time in South Africa, the political maneuvering. We are stripping away the myth to find the human being underneath.
Because the human being is far more interesting than the saint.
Absolutely. So let's rewind the clock. Way back. Before he was the father of the nation, before he was a Mahatma, he was just Mohandas. And honestly, looking at the sources, he wasn't exactly a prodigy, was he?
Not even close. I mean, it's quite the opposite. He was born on October 10th, 1869, in Porbandar, which is a coastal town in Gujarat.
Right.
His family belonged to the Madhbaniya caste, traditionally merchants or grocers. But his father, Karamchand, had risen up the ranks to become a Dewan.
Which is like a chief minister.
Essentially, yes, a chief minister of a small princely state.
His dad sounds like a piece of work. The sources say he was a capable administrator, but a short fuse.
A very short temper, yes. But he was good at his job, apparently.
However,
the real anchor in Gandhi's life was his mother, Putlabai. She was deeply, intensely religious. She practiced these rigorous fasts. I mean, there's a story that if the sun didn't shine, she wouldn't eat for the day.
Wow.
That idea of self-suffering as a way to purify the soul, that comes straight from her.
You can see the seeds being planted right there.
Yeah.
But Mohandas himself, I love these details about his childhood. One source describes him as being restless as Mercury.
I love that phrase.
And get this, his favorite pastime as a kid was twisting dogs' ears.
It certainly disrupts the holy image, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like a bratty little kid. And he was a mediocre student, just average.
Completely. He was bad at geography. He had terrible handwriting, which he was insecure about for his entire life, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And he was paralyzed by fear.
That is the defining trait of his childhood. Fear. He was afraid of the dark. He was afraid of ghosts. He was afraid of snakes.
He couldn't sleep without a light on. He was incredibly shy and tongue-tied. This was not a born orator. This was a kid who would run home from school because he was terrified of having to talk to anyone.
Which makes his later life just all the more impressive, honestly. But there is one event in his childhood that we really have to unpack, because it seems to be the root of so much of his later psychology.
The marriage.
Yes, the child marriage. He was married at the age of 13, and his bride, Kasturba, was also 13.
A common practice at the time, but still 13.
And I know we have to look at this through the lens of the time and place. This was the custom. But reading his own autobiography, he doesn't use custom as an excuse. He's pretty brutal on himself about how he acted.
He is. He's very self-critical. Initially, for two 13-year-olds, the wedding just meant, wearing new clothes, eating sweets, and playing with relatives. It was a game.
Right.
But as puberty hit, the dynamic shifted. Gandhi describes himself as a jealous husband.
He uses the word lustful a lot. He says he wanted to educate her, but mostly he wanted to control her.
Completely. He couldn't stand it if she went to the temple with her girlfriends without asking his permission. He was, in his own words, a tyrant. Extremely. And this obsession, this lust, as he categorized it, collided with a massive tragedy when he was 16. This is the defining trauma of his young life.
So set the scene for us. What happened?
His father, Karamchand, was dying. He was bedridden. And young Gandhi, trying to be the dutiful son, was by his bedside every night, massaging his legs, nursing him.
A grueling schedule for a 16-year-old.
Incredibly. And one night, his uncle offered to relieve him, to take a shift so Gandhi could get some sleep.
But he didn't go to sleep.
No. He went straight to his bedroom. He woke up his pregnant wife, Kasturba, and he initiated intimacy. He was driven by that blind passion he writes about.
And while he was in bed with his wife,
a servant knocked on the door. He said, "Father is no more."
Oh, no.
In a few minutes that Gandhi had left his post to satisfy his carnal desire, his father had died.
Wow. The guilt. You can't even imagine.
It was crushing. He never, ever forgave himself. He wrote later that if animal passion hadn't blinded him, he would have been there to catch his father's last breath.
And that guilt has to go somewhere.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And most historians and psychologists agree that this moment planted the seeds for his extreme views on sexuality later in life. He started linking sexual desire with a loss of spiritual focus, a dereliction of duty, and ultimately death.
That's a heavy start for anyone's life. So you have this guilt-ridden, mediocre student, now a father himself at a young age. The family fortunes are dipping after his dad dies.
Right.
The family elders are looking at him like, okay, Mahanas, you need to step up. What's the plan?
The plan is law, but you can't just be a local lawyer.
Yeah.
To really restore the family's status, to get those high-ranking government jobs, he needs to go to the source. He needs to go to England.
He needs to become a barrister.
Exactly.
Which brings us to section 2, the English gentleman. And honestly, this is the most relatable identity crisis phase I've ever seen.
It really is.
It's like his college freshman year, but in Victorian London.
It is exactly that. It's 1888. He's 18. He leaves his wife and child behind, and he escapes to London. And I use that word because the caste elders in his hometown actually excommunicated him for crossing the Black Water.
What does that mean?
It was a taboo, a Hindu breaking caste by traveling overseas. They thought going to England would make him lose his religion.
And his mother was terrified. She thought he'd start drinking gin and eating beef.
So he takes a solemn vow. He swears to his mother. No meat, no alcohol, no women. And interestingly, he keeps that vow.
He does.
He practically starves himself in London trying to find vegetarian food, but while he keeps the diet, he tries desperately to fit in culturally.
This is the part I love. He tries to become the perfect English gentleman.
He goes all in.
He buys these expensive suits from Bond Street. He gets a chimney pot hat. He takes dancing lessons.
Can you imagine the Mahatma doing the foxtrot? It's just a bizarre image.
He even tries to learn the violin.
He was aping the West, as he later put it. He thought that if he could just mimic the British, perfectly dress like them, dance like them, talk like them, he would be accepted as an equal.
He was trying to act his way into the club.
A club that was never going to accept him, no matter how well he played the violin.
But the violin didn't last long, did it?
No. He realized pretty quickly he was chasing a phantom. He was never going to be an Englishman. But something else happened in London that was far more important than the dancing lessons.
Okay.
He found a tribe. He found the Vegetarian Society.
Now, to a modern listener, Vegetarian Society sounds like a generic club. But back then in Victorian London, this was a hub for radicals, right?
Exactly. It wasn't just about not eating meat. These were the counterculture rebels of their day. Socialists, humanitarians, theosophists, anti-industrialists.
A very different crowd.
And this is where the irony strikes. In India, Gandhi hadn't really read the Hindu scriptures. He wasn't particularly devout. But in London, he meets these theosophists, white Westerners, who are obsessed with Eastern wisdom. And they ask him to read the Bhagavad Gita with them.
That is hilarious. So he discovers his own spiritual heritage
In London.
reading an English translation.
With a bunch of British spiritualists.
You couldn't write that. It just shows how his identity was being constructed from the outside in.
Precisely. He needed that distance to appreciate what he had left behind. And we see the first glimpse of his moral backbone here, too.
How so?
There was a conflict in the Vegetarian Society. A member, a Dr. Allinson, was advocating for birth control.
Which was a scandalous topic back then.
A huge scandal.
Yeah.
The president of the society wanted to kick Allinson out. Now, Gandhi personally didn't agree with birth control. He was a prude.
Sure.
But he believed Allinson had a right to his opinion.
So what did he do? Did he stand up and give a big speech?
He tried. But remember, he was still the shy boy.
Right, the kid who ran home from school.
He stood up, stammered, couldn't get the words out. He actually wrote his defense down and had someone else read it.
Oh!
But the point is, he stood up, he defended the unpopular view because of a principle.
Fairness.
A quiet defense of the underdog. That's foreshadowing, if I've ever heard it. So he finishes his studies, becomes a lawyer, comes back to India in 1891, and, spoiler alert, he fails miserably.
Total disaster, a complete flop. He tries to set up a practice in Bombay, but he can't speak in court. The shyness again.
It's crippling. He's psychologically unable to cross-examine witnesses. He gets so nervous in one case that he has to refund the client's fee and run out of the courtroom.
He's a lawyer who can't talk. That's a bit of a problem.
Is it a career-ending problem?
Yeah.
So when a Muslim merchant firm offers him a one-year contract in South Africa to help with a lawsuit, he jumps at it. It's a lifeline.
A way out.
He thinks, I'll go for a year, make some money, and come back.
He had no idea. He ends up staying for 21 years. And this brings us to Section 3, the Crucible of South Africa. This is where Mohandas becomes Gandhi.
This is the forge.
And it all starts on a train.
The Pietermaritzburg incident. It's iconic for a reason. It's 1893, a week after arriving. He's wearing his nice English suit, sitting in a first-class compartment. He has a valid ticket.
He feels entitled to be there.
He does. But a white passenger gets on and complains.
What is this coolie doing in first class?
Exactly. The conductor tells him to move to the van compartment, third class. Gandhi refuses. He holds up his ticket. He says, I have a right to be here. So at the next station, Pietermaritzburg, a constable, pushes him off the train. His luggage is tossed out after him. The train pulls away.
And he's just left standing on the platform.
It's winter in the southern hemisphere. It is freezing cold. He's shivering in the waiting room all night without his overcoat, which is in his luggage. And he sits there in the dark, and he has a crisis of conscience.
This is the hero's choice moment. Crossroads.
It really is. He asks himself, should I fight for my rights, or should I just go back to India? He decided that running away would be cowardice. He viewed this treatment not just as a personal insult, but as a symptom of a deep disease of color prejudice. He decided to stay and root out the disease.
But here is where we need to pause and add some nuance. Because his initial fight, it wasn't exactly for universal human rights, was it?
No.
He wasn't fighting for the rights of the native Africans.
This is a critical point, and we have to address the controversy. We cannot sanitize this. Early in his South Africa tenure, Gandhi's argument was essentially, we Indians are subjects of the British Empire. We have an ancient civilization. We shouldn't be treated like it. And here he used very derogatory terms for black South Africans.
The sources quote him using the term raw Kafirs.
Yes, it's a slur. It's deeply uncomfortable to read now. He wrote editorials arguing that Indians and British were of the same Aryan stock and should be allies.
Wow.
He complained about Indians being forced to share prison cells with Africans. He found it degrading.
That is tough to hear today. It sounds like he wasn't trying to dismantle the hierarchy. He was just trying to move up a rung.
That is an excellent way to put it. That is exactly what he was doing. He was a man of his time, and specifically a man of his caste and class. He arrived wanting to be part of the empire. He wanted Indians to be treated as honorary whites.
So was the Mahatma a racist?
In 1893. I mean, the evidence suggests, yes, he held the prejudices of his time, but the story of Gandhi is the story of evolution. He didn't stay there.
Okay, that's important.
And interestingly, the thing that started to change his mind was war.
The Boer War and the Zulu Rebellion.
Right. Gandhi was so desperate to prove Indian loyalty that he organized an Indian ambulance corps. He thought, if we serve the empire, if we show we can do manly duties, they will give us rights.
So he's still playing the loyal subject.
He's still trying to get into the club. So he's out there in a khaki uniform carrying wounded British soldiers on stretchers.
But during the Zulu Rebellion in 1906, something shifts.
It does. He realized the British weren't fighting a war. They were suppressing a peasant revolt. And he ended up nursing Zulus whose backs had been lashed raw by British soldiers.
Oh my goodness.
The white doctors wouldn't touch them. Seeing that brutality up close, it started to crack his worldview. He began to see that the oppression of the Indians and the oppression of the Africans came from the same source.
The empire.
He started to realize that the empire wasn't a benevolent force he wanted to join. It was a violent force he needed to resist.
And 1906 is also the year everything changes politically. The government introduces the Black Act.
The Asiatic Registration Bill. It required every Indian man, woman, and child to be fingerprinted and carry a pass at all times.
And if you didn't have your pass,
you could be fined, imprisoned, or deported. It treated an entire population like criminals.
Gandhi realized that writing polite letters to the Queen wasn't going to work anymore.
Exactly. The gentleman lawyer was dead. The activist was born. He calls a mass meeting at the Empire Theater in Johannesburg. Thousands attend. And he introduces a new weapon.
Satyagraha.
Satyagraha. Now, let's unpack this word. We often hear passive resistance, but Gandhi hated that term, didn't he? He despised it. Passive resistance implies weakness. It implies you are only nonviolent because you don't have a gun.
Right.
Satyagraha is a compound Sanskrit word. Satya means truth. Agraha means insistence or force. It's truth force or soul force.
How does it actually work? Like mechanically, what's the process?
It's psychological judo. It's an active choice. You say to the oppressor, I will not obey your unjust law, but I will not fight you. I will accept the penalty. I will let you beat me. I will let you imprison me. I will let you kill me, but I will not strike back.
And the goal is what?
Through my suffering, I will mirror your violence back to you until you are shamed into changing. You're trying to convert your opponent, not defeat them.
That requires an insane amount of discipline.
Which is why he set up Tolstoy Farm. This was a commune he built with his friend, a German architect named Hermann Kallenbach. It was a boot camp for nonviolent warriors.
A training ground.
Completely. They learned to make their own shoes, grow their own food. He was deconditioning them from relying on the colonial system. By the time he left South Africa in 1914, he had extracted significant concessions from the government. He had proven the method worked.
So 1915, he returns to India. He's 45 years old. He's famous in activist circles, but he's been gone for 20 years. He doesn't really know India anymore.
He's a stranger in his own land, which is why his mentor, a political leader named Gokul, gave him the best advice possible.
What was that?
Keep your mouth shut and your eyes open for a year.
I love that. Don't come in here telling us how to fix things, just look.
And he took it to heart. He stripped off the Western suit, no more top hat. He puts on the dhoti and loincloth.
And this wasn't just a fashion choice, it was branding, right? It was a symbol.
It was genius branding. He was identifying with the poorest peasant in the remotest village. And he gets on the train, third class this time, by choice, and he tours the country. He just listens.
What did he find? What did he see?
He found a huge disconnect. The politicians in the Indian National Congress Party were urban elites. They were lawyers, speaking English, debating constitutional reforms in, air-conditioned rooms.
Disconnected from the reality of most people's lives.
Completely.
Right.
But the real India, the famished, ignorant masses in the villages, was completely ignored. Gandhi realized that if freedom was going to come, it couldn't just be a transfer of power from white sahibs to brown sahibs. It had to be a revolution for the peasant.
And he starts picking fights that matter to them.
Exactly. Shampur Geda.
Yeah.
These are places the elites in Delhi couldn't find on a map. He went there and organized indigo farmers and peasants who were being crushed by taxes during a famine.
And this is the shift from petitioner to mass leader. He wasn't just asking for rights anymore.
No, he was organizing entire districts to stop paying taxes. He was teaching them satyagraha. He was teaching them to be fearless.
And he introduces the charkha, the spinning wheel.
Again, genius branding. But it was also economic warfare, right?
Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Gandhi realized the British ruled India for profit. It was a business. They took Indian cotton, shipped it to Manchester, turned it into cloth in their factories, and sold it back to Indians at a markup. It was a closed loop.
A system of dependency.
And Gandhi said, stop.
Make your own cloth.
Spin your own khadi. If Indians stopped buying British cloth, the economic logic of the empire would collapse. It was Swadeshi self-reliance, but symbolically it was so powerful.
How so?
When you saw a wealthy lawyer or a rich merchant sitting down to spin thread every day, they were performing the labor of the poor. It unified the nation in a shared, simple activity.
So we're building up to the big one. 1930, the Salt March. This is arguably his masterpiece, but I have to ask, why salt?
Oh, yes.
Of all the things to fight about, land, voting, taxes, why pick a fight over a condiment?
That was the genius of it. The Congress intellectuals were baffled. They were drafting these high-minded declarations of independence, and Gandhi says, no, I'm going to go for a walk to pick up salt. They thought he was going senile.
The British viceroy at the time, Lord Irwin, wrote a letter saying, I'm not losing sleep over salt.
He completely underestimated the strategy. Gandhi understood that you can't mobilize hundreds of millions of illiterate peasants with abstract constitutional concepts. You need something tangible.
Something everyone understands.
Something that touches every single life. Every human being needs salt. The British had a monopoly on it and taxed it. It hit the poorest of the poor the hardest.
So it was a simple moral argument. God gives us the salt from the ocean, and the British steal it and sell it back to us.
Exactly. It was clear. It was undeniable. And the march itself, it was a masterclass in media management.
Explain that. Because it wasn't just about the act, it was the performance of it.
The performance was everything. He didn't just go to the beach, he walked. For 240 miles, it took 24 days. Why?
To build suspense.
To build suspense. It was like a slow-motion car chase. Every day, the newspapers reported, he's at this village, he's 10 miles closer. The American press arrived, the British press. By the time he reached the sea at Dundee, the entire world was watching.
It was global theater.
It was. On April 6th, he walked into the water, bathed, and then bent down and picked up a lump of natural salt. A technical breach of the law.
No big speech.
No speech, he just held up the salt.
And the country exploded.
It's electric. Suddenly, making salt became a revolutionary act. Millions of people started boiling seawater. Women, who had been kept out of politics until then, came out of their homes to join the protests.
How many people were arrested?
Over 60,000 people. The jails were full. The British didn't know what to do. They were paralyzed.
It's the classic dilemma. If they arrest him, he's a martyr. If they don't, their law is a joke.
Precisely. It shook the foundations of the empire because it proved that the British only ruled because Indians cooperated. The moment that cooperation stopped, the moment the fear vanished, the empire was finished. They just didn't know it yet.
It's incredible. But now I want to pivot because while he's shaking empires, his personal life is, well, it's getting weird.
It is.
We need to talk about Section 5, the controversies, specifically brahmacharya, celibacy.
We do. And we have to handle this carefully because it's easily misunderstood and, frankly, very strange.
Okay.
In 1906, at age 37, Gandhi took a vow of celibacy. He felt that sexual energy was a dissipation of spiritual energy. He wanted to conserve that energy for public service.
Which is fine. Lots of monks and spiritual leaders do that. But the experiments in his later years, this is what people stumble over.
Yes. In the 1940s, amidst the horrific violence of partition, Gandhi started testing his celibacy.
How?
He would sleep in the same bed as women, including his grandniece, Manu, naked.
Okay, let's just pause there. Why? What was the logic? Because to a modern ear, that sounds, well, it sounds abusive. It sounds deeply wrong.
It is deeply disturbing.
Yeah.
And even his closest aides were horrified. They told him it looked wrong, that it would be misunderstood. But you have to try to understand Gandhi's magical thinking here. He believed in the concept of oja, spiritual heat. He believed that if he could lie next to a naked woman, the ultimate temptation, and feel absolutely zero desire, then his brahmacharya was perfect.
And if his brahmacharya was perfect, then what? What was the end game?
He believed that his spiritual force, his truth force, would be so strong that it could influence the cosmic balance and stop the riots consuming India.
So he linked his own sexual purity to the political fate of the entire nation.
Literally, yes.
That is a massive burden to place on the women involved.
Immense. Manu wrote in her diaries about the psychological pressure. She felt that if she didn't participate, she was hindering his spiritual work, his mission to save India. It's a classic case of a powerful figure blurring boundaries in the name of a higher cause. It remains the darkest, most complicated asterisk on his legacy. No question.
And it wasn't just that. His family life was tragic. His eldest son, Harlow.
Oh, that is a heartbreaking story. Gandhi had impossibly high standards. He wanted his sons to be saints like him.
But Harlal just wanted to be a normal guy.
Exactly. You want to go to school in England, become a lawyer, get married, make money.
Yeah.
Gandhi forbade it. He said a formal Western education was useless. Character building was more important.
So Harlal rebelled.
He rebelled hard. He became an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He frequented prostitutes. He publicly converted to Islam and then back to Hinduism just to spite his father.
Wow.
He would show up at Gandhi's rallies drunk, shouting at him. He died destitute in a hospital shortly after Gandhi's assassination. A completely broken man.
It's the classic tragedy of the great man who loves humanity but can't connect with his own children. And Kasturba, his wife.
She was the unsung hero.
No.
She resisted him initially. I mean, she hated the idea of cleaning latrines, which was a job for untouchables, but Gandhi insisted everyone in the ashram do it.
I can imagine.
But eventually she became his partner. She went to prison. She led protests when he was arrested. She died in detention in 1944 with her head in Gandhi's lap. He said he felt like half of himself had died.
So let's move to the end game. The 1940s. The world is at war. Britain is weak. Independence is coming.
It's inevitable.
But so is the fracture.
The tragedy of partition. This is a part of the story that it breaks your heart. While Gandhi was uniting the masses against the British, a fissure was growing between Hindus and Muslims.
Right.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, started arguing that Hindus and Muslims were two separate nations. He needed a separate country, Pakistan.
And Gandhi hated this idea.
He called it a vivisection. He said it was like cutting his own body in two. He believed in a united secular India where everyone could live together.
And he tried everything to stop it.
Everything. He even made a desperate last-ditch offer. He told the British Viceroy to make Jinnah the Prime Minister of United India. He said, let him run the whole country, just don't split it.
That is a bold move, unbelievably bold. But the Congress Party, Nehru and Patel, they wouldn't agree to that, would they?
No. They wanted power. They'd been waiting their whole lives for it, and Jinnah didn't trust Gandhi either. The mistrust was too deep on all sides.
And then came August 16th, 1946, Direct Action Day.
The Great Calcutta killings. It was a bloodbath. Thousands dead in days. The violence was horrific. Neighbors killing neighbors. Mobs hunting people in the streets.
Unspeakable.
And this is where Gandhi becomes the one-man boundary force. While the politicians were in Delhi negotiating maps, drawing lines, Gandhi went to the front lines. He went to Noakhali in East Bengal.
This is the image that stays with me. An old man, 77 years old, walking barefoot through the mud.
He walked through villages where Hindus had been slaughtered. He walked on glass and excreta that people threw on his path. He stayed in Muslim homes to show he wasn't afraid.
And then he went to Bihar to protect Muslims.
He put his life on the line every single day to say, if you want to kill someone, kill me first.
Did it work?
In the places where he walked, yes. The violence stopped. Lord Mountbatten, the last viceroy, famously wrote that the 50,000 soldiers in the Punjab couldn't keep the peace, but one old man kept the peace in Bengal.
That's incredible moral force.
But he couldn't stop the partition. It was too late.
August 15th, 1947, Independence Day. Nehru gives his famous Tryst with Destiny speech. There are fireworks. Everyone is celebrating. Where is Gandhi?
He's in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Fasting. He refused to attend the celebrations in Delhi. He saw partition not as a victory, but as a spiritual tragedy, a failure. He was mourning.
And this brings us to the final act, the assassination. We need to understand the motive, because Godse wasn't just a crazy guy with a gun. He had a specific reason.
He did. A political and ideological reason. It revolves around the 55 crores.
Explain that. What does that mean?
After partition, the assets of British India had to be divided. India owed Pakistan 550 million rupees, or 55 crores. But just after independence, Pakistan-backed militias invaded Kashmir. They were technically a war. So the Indian government, led by Patel and Nehru, said, we aren't giving you this money. You'll just use it to buy bullets to shoot our soldiers.
Which makes strategic sense from a government perspective.
It does. But Gandhi saw it as a moral issue. He said, it was a promise. It is part of the agreement. You cannot break your word, even to an enemy.
So he went on a fast?
His final fast. He said he wouldn't eat until the violence in Delhi stopped, and the money was paid to Pakistan.
And because he was the father of the nation, the government couldn't let him die.
They couldn't. They caved. They paid the money.
Yeah.
And to the Hindu nationalists, to men like Nathuram Godse, this was the final betrayal.
The last straw.
They saw it as Gandhi, appeasing an enemy nation at the cost of Hindu lives. They believed he was emasculating India, making it weak.
So Godse decided to act.
Godse was an intellectual, a journalist. He was formerly associated with the RSS and Hindu Mahasabha. He believed that for the Hindu nation to survive and be strong, Gandhi had to be removed.
There was a failed attempt first.
Yeah. Yes. 10 days before the assassination, a bomb was set off at a prayer meeting. It failed. Gandhi was urged to accept more security.
And he refused.
He refused. He said, "If I am to die by the bullet of a madman, I must do so smiling. There must be no anger within me. God must be in my heart and on my lips."
And then came January 30th, the scene we started with. The garden, the bow, the shots.
During his trial, Godse didn't deny the killing. He gave a long, articulate defense. He claimed it was a moral duty. He said he had to kill the father of the nation so the nation could live.
He saw himself as a patriot.
He did. He was hanged for it, but he went to the gallows believing he had saved India.
And the reaction. Einstein's quote is the one everyone remembers.
Generations to come will scarcely believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth.
And Nehru's address to the nation. The light has gone out.
But in a weird, tragic way, the light didn't go out. The assassination shocked the country into a temporary peace. The communal violence actually died down because the shame was so great.
So in death, Gandhi achieved the peace he couldn't get while alive.
For time, yes.
Oh,
A tragic, final act of self-sacrifice.
that is heavy. So let's try to pull this all together. What is the legacy? When you strip everything away, what's left?
It's massive. I mean, he ended the British Empire, yes. But more than that, he created a blueprint. Before Gandhi, if you wanted to fight power, you used violence. That was the only tool.
Yeah.
He invented a new technology of resistance. Martin Luther King Jr. used it in the American Civil Rights Movement. Nelson Mandela used it to fight apartheid. The Solidarity movement in Poland used it against the Soviets.
He proved that you can fight without a gun, that morality can be a weapon.
Exactly. But he was also a man who tested his celibacy by sleeping with his grandniece. He was a man who held racist views in his 20s before evolving. He was deeply, profoundly complex.
He wasn't a static saint.
No. He called his autobiography The Story of My Experiments with Truth. That's the key word, experiments. He was constantly testing, failing, and evolving.
So here is the final thought I want to leave our listeners with. Gandhi evolved from a British loyalist to a revolutionary. From a man with prejudices to a universalist. From a lawyer in a suit to a saint in a loincloth. But in the end, he was killed by a man who valued realism and national interest over idealism and morality.
That's the eternal clash, isn't it? Is politics about power and winning? Or is it about truth and the soul? Gandhi argued for the soul. Godse argued for the nation state.
And looking at the world today, we are still fighting that battle.
We absolutely are, every day.
That is where we are going to wrap up this deep dive into the life of the Mahatma.
It's been a fascinating and complicated journey.
If you found this journey through history fascinating and you want to understand the people who shaped our world, make sure to subscribe to History Titans.
Yeah, please do.
Like this video, share it with someone who needs to know the full story behind the legend.
Help History Titans keep the past alive.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.